All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really excited. Got a couple of awesome people here with us. Welcome to Leading with Leverage. Today we have Roy Towse from Compass Seattle and operations guru Emily Masutomi, who joined forces with Roy a couple of years ago, and they're doing some amazing things. We're going to learn a little bit what we can about how everything is meshing so well together and producing magic for them. Leading with Leverage, really fast. Again, we're interviewing rainmakers and their right-hand person, oftentimes, an operations specialist. The rainmaker brings them in, leverages out some stuff beyond sales, takes stuff off of their plate, and that enables them to grow their business some more. So it's been a big success story here with Roy and Emily, and we're going to learn some more about that. Again, Roy Towse, thank you for joining us. Compass Seattle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, you bet. Been doing real estate for 20 years. I wasn't born here, but I was raised here. I was born in Alaska. But ever since college, I got right into real estate, and I've aged probably 80 years since then. But especially with this market, no. But we kind of plant our flag in Sammamish, Washington, which is a suburb of Seattle on the east side of Seattle. And this is where we focus our business. Mostly on obviously locals, but a lot of relocation too. So we get tons of relo from all the alphabet companies, of course, and yeah, that's about it.
Awesome, thanks for sharing that. And again, we have Emily Masutomi here with us. Emily, you were hired to come in here and work with Roy. You actually have one of my favorite stories. You had just relocated to Seattle from one of my favorite places, Hawaii. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Emily. I moved from Hawaii about 2.5 years ago. Immediately found this great opportunity. Got started with Roy, and what better way to learn the area, right, than real estate? Getting to tour around all different houses, all different areas. It's been great.
Yeah, and you really stepped up and you won this opportunity. You impressed both of us, from the get-go. Now, Roy, really fast. Emily was not your first assistant, correct?
No, she wasn't. She was my third assistant, actually.
Gotcha. And how is Emily different than the ones you had before?
Well, she kind of, I'm not going to lie, she kind of broke the bar. She's fantastic. My first two assistants, I was very fortunate with my first assistant, Melissa. She was actually our office manager at one of my former company. And she saw me interviewing, and she kind of brought me to the side, and she's like, "Hey, don't tell anybody, but are you looking to hire? Because I'd like to work with you." And she was a great assistant. She stays home with her 2 kids now, and she's got a great life with her husband. And but she was a great assistant. My second assistant, I thought it was so easy to hire on my second assistant that I took the first person I met, and she was a very, very great assistant as well too. Her passion for real estate bled into the sales, and so she moved on to become a real estate agent herself. As I will probably eventually talk about the importance of having an assistant, along comes Emily, and just kind of sets the bar and the standard to a level that is unattainable, I would believe.
Yeah, for sure. I had little doubt when we were interviewing her that she was going to come in and just do a fantastic job for you. So you had lost an assistant before because she decided to pursue agent life. Emily, I remember when we were doing the interviews with her, that was one thing that we were kind of focused on. We were hoping to have someone that really loved and wanted to be on the operations side of things, and certainly Emily's done that.
Yes, still no drive to become the agent. The rainmaker, no. I'll stay in the background happily.
Tell us a little bit about that, Emily. What is it about you that agents, they can do their thing, but that's not my life.
Well, look at Roy. He can talk about anything. He can talk all day to any person, any client. He's so outgoing and friendly. Me, I can type away in the back and get everything done while he's being the show person out in the front and getting the business.
Yeah. And then Roy, if we can try to remember back a couple of years ago, does anything stand out for you? You know, during the interview process, we had a lot of very talented candidates, I remember. But Emily, you know, rose to the top pretty quickly. What were some of the things, if you can remember, that really set her apart for you, that made you think, okay, I think this is the one?
Demeanor, for sure. You know, Emily's demeanor is, everyone knows, who knows Emily, that she's one of the most sweetest, gentle, patient, pretty much every adjective you can find to meet, you know, anyone I've ever met, for sure. And you know, I'm a customer focused broker, not to say anyone else isn't. We're all customer focused, but I mean, customer satisfaction is at the top of our list, you know, and Emily's personality came through in the interview as somebody that will duplicate me, if not exceed me, which she absolutely has. Most of my clients wonder who works for who at the end of transactions sometimes. But no, she's and for her to take the leap of faith to leave somewhere where she's been her whole life with her daughters and come here to make a better life for her family was also an important thing for me too. Because you know that's not easy to leave your family and leave everything you know to go somewhere you know you maybe visited, but plant your roots. And so you know, for me that was something that was important to me, and I just believe that she was going to be a great fit for that position. So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think anyone that's watching this video can tell how well clients are going to resonate with Emily. She, you know, she has a magnetic sweetness to her. But you also mentioned that your clients, I'd like to dig a little deeper on this for a sec, that your
sure.
clients sometimes ask like who works for who. So while she does have that sweet side to her, she keeps you organized and she keeps you on track for doing the things that you need to do.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I mean, my best quality as a broker is to be in the field talking with people, not behind a computer screen, not with logistics. I'm definitely not organized. I mean, I can be if I really paid attention to it, but then you lose something else, right? You lose your ability to go connect with a past client for lunch, or, you know, to take a class, or, you know, go to, you know, an event or whatever it is, right? Emily is always the powerhouse in the background running the machine, you know. So when we have a client in the contract, you know, Emily's the one that's really carrying the weight on all the back end items, you know, all the escrow and every little detail that we all know that comes up with every transaction is in its intricacies, you know. She's the one handling all of that. And that's why by the end, you know, a lot of our clients are like, so who's in charge here actually, you know? So, and my wife knows that too. I think Emily's my work wife, if I'm allowed to say that. And then in my home life, you know, my wife's got my life organized on that front too. So I'm just a doer. I'm not good at the organization stuff. So I just, those are the two women in my life that mean a lot.
Well, those of us that are married and have very important women that need to keep us on task, you know exactly what you're talking about. You know, being a doer. Obviously, many of our clients are doers. High performing realtors do tend to be doers, you know, and they're not great with details, and they need someone that's going to have a strong client care aspect, but also be able to keep things on the rails as well as possible.
Yeah, our best quality as brokers is to be in the field talking to our clients. So.
And that's not to say that Roy's not great with details. I mean, his memory, even though he has a million clients, he can still recall stuff. Oh, they had 2 kids who were super cute. Oh, they have, they wanted to look in this area. We have so many buyers right now, but yet he still is able to, when he sees their face, he is able to remember, oh, they were looking in this area. This house might be a perfect fit for them. So that's not to say he's not great with detail. It's just he's better out in the field.
And there's Emily being nice again.
and Emily, I'd like to ask you if you could remember back a couple of years ago when you were interviewing for the job, you know, what was it about Roy that made you feel like, oh, okay, yep, I think that this is the opportunity that I'm looking for?
Well, first of all, he took great care in the hiring process, which is great. I mean, not all people do that. I mean, he went through your consulting program, which is amazing. Um, I met him in the last interview with you, Ryan, and
Mhm.
he immediately struck me as a good person. You know, he was caring. He wanted to, which was interesting about the last interview. He wanted to know about me personally, as my personal life, and I thought that was pretty nice because it showed that he wanted to see if the two of us would be a good fit, not just do I qualify and do I have the right skills. It was, are we going to work together well, sort of thing. And I thought that was very, very cool. Great aspect part for the interview.
Yeah, I love that. That's a recurring theme that's coming up in a lot of these interviews. Is that the assistants, imagine that they appreciate the fact that they're being viewed as a human being, and that people care about who they are, and what matters to them. And when you find, a guy like Roy that's got a great business, and does seem personally invested in your success. He cares about you and your personal life, wants you to have good things. Imagine that sounds like a great place to work, but not everyone does that. Some people, they just kind of look at their assistants as, okay, I'm gonna throw money at this issue and you go do that, and that's a job, and they forget they're dealing with a human being. So hats off to Roy for impressing Emily as well early on in the process.
Continues
Absolutely.
to do so.
What's that?
Continues to do so.
Yeah. and and Roy, after she got in the door, like in kind of the early stages, when after the hire was made, was there anything that she did that really kind of solidified your belief that, okay, I can build my business around Emily? What I felt during the hiring process is confirmed now. How did she really knock your socks off? Because again, we have job seekers that are going to watch this too. So kind of advice to them. What did Emily do to really impress you and make you feel great about the hire?
I, she soaked everything in so quickly, coming from, I mean, her aunt's a real estate agent down in Las Vegas as well. And so she had a little taste in the back of her mouth from real estate. But she grabbed everything by the horns and just ran with it, and she did it with an optimistic attitude and a really great work ethic. And frankly speaking, it got so good that I was starting to worry she was going down the path of being a real estate agent, not from the fact that she wants to sell, but she was starting to deal with my schedule a little too much, where because I don't know if I ever stop working really. If my eyes are open, I'm likely working, so. And I didn't want, there was a fine line for me because she needs a work-life balance. She has to deal with all my crap and all day long. And I felt like she actually was getting so good at it that I needed to kind of pull it back and let her have her personal life with her family. Not to say that always happens. Sorry, Emily. But no, she just, she learned real estate law very quickly. She got her license. She learned, I think the most important thing, for me was she just learned how I function day to day, how she's now a step ahead of me on everything. Before I even think of it, she already knows what I'm going to think in an hour or 2 hours or with a transaction, and that takes time. But it also takes someone who's willing to do that, right? It takes someone who's willing to listen and understand why sometimes our chaotic brains work the way that they do. And now it's a fully, well-running machine, and it just makes me hyper efficient.
Gotcha. I'd like to just kind of sum up kind of something that you were talking about right there. Um, so Emily came in. Sounds like she was going above and beyond. She was taking her personal time, right? Like, so she was willing to do whatever she needed to do to perform at a high level as quickly as possible. So big kudos to Emily. Also, big kudos to Roy for not taking advantage of that, right? So that's kind of the dynamic that in my world I would love to see for all people that are going to be bringing on an assistant, right? We all want someone that's not going to just punch the clock and say, okay, it's 5 o'clock, bye, I'll talk to you tomorrow. If there's stuff that needs to be done, or if you don't really know something super well, okay, maybe you're going to take some personal time to learn it, but also you as the rainmaker and wanting to have someone that's going to have a good quality of life, you also don't want to take advantage of that either, you know? So
Right.
I think that was a great balance that you two kind of came to together, but by just having a, a, a great understanding of each other, and just wanting to be good people in addition to being successful people.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to care about somebody who's caring about your business, right? I mean, yeah, the role of an assistant, once you get to that level, is not an assistant. You are literally running the operations. You are running everything in the background. So,
And Emily, obviously you got in there and you started taking over operations very quickly. You know, how did you approach that? Because you didn't come from a real estate, you had a family member that was in real estate, but you hadn't had this role in the past. You know, so how did you go about trying to assimilate all this knowledge, so that you could be the best EA as quickly as possible? What was your approach there?
Well, my first approach, of course, was to fill the void because I knew Roy and his team hadn't had an assistant in several months. So, first off, was to try to learn as much as I could, try to learn as much about them as I could so that I could help in any way. Um, I mentioned this to Roy. His previous assistant, Melissa, created what I dubbed the Bible. And it was a complete how to of everything that she did for him. And so Roy and I went through that page by page and kind of, but nothing really clicked until we started going through each transaction because each real estate transaction is a little different. No two are alike. So there was a learning process, but my approach was to read that Bible back and front and just know the basics, and that way I could recall information in case something similar came up. Um, Basically, just to familiarize myself with everything that she had written because that's how his process was. So it was a great starting point, and I thank her so much for creating that because it's super helpful. I'm definitely still using it, still sticking to some of what she had created before.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something that we'll do on the consulting end with agents that don't already have something like that. You had that. That speaks to the value of, you know, being able to bring someone on as quickly as possible. And again, credit to Roy. He didn't just throw the binder at her and say, "Hey, go figure it out," right? You know, he invested time. You guys sat down. You went through the stuff. He explained. You added some more color to what you're doing and why you're doing it, and that's a big part of why you were able to kind of hit the ground running. Now,
oh, and
now
Ryan, just to plug Franny really quick, you know, like when you hire somebody on your own, you are literally taking something so I'm not necessarily the person, but the process so raw from beginning to, you know, to getting to a point to where Emily is at, you know, and you know, thankfully I did have that Bible, you know, which I learned from another great broker, you know, prior to me, of making lists and stuff like that. But your firm is so spectacular at hiring and giving such great advice to agents, because that stuff pays itself in spades. If we look at it as time as a commodity, it takes time to get somebody up to the level of Emily, you know, and having that structure is vitally important, you know, and making sure that you're really investing that time and the money, you know, to get that your new partner on board and up to snuff. So
for sure. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Hiring is a big deal. If you make the wrong hire, it's going to set you back a lot, you know, and some people are able to do hiring, you know, at a high level, and some people that it's not their thing, you know, and they don't know how to do it at a high level, or they don't have the time to do it at the high level, and then they can get some leverage with a company like ours that can help them do a good job with hiring. Now, Roy, since Emily's come on, your business has definitely grown. I believe you said you had kind of a banner year. Was it last year or something like that?
yeah.
Can you tell us some more about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
We've had a lot of great years in real estate. You know, the last decade has been really great for the Puget Sound area, the Pacific Northwest. We've had a lot of growth here. So if you're not trying, you know, you won't have a good year. But it's pretty hard not to have a good year here. But you know, that does take a lot of work. You know, it takes a lot of background work and with your past clients and all that. And, you know, we culminated back in 2017 as one of my best years. That year, I think we did around 90 transactions as a team, maybe about 65 million in sales. That was my former brokerage, and then Compass came along, and I joined Compass when they came into Seattle, and then, you know, kind of chipped away. Leaving any brokerage for another brokerage is never a great thing for business, so that took a little bit of time to get adjusted, and then all the stars just kind of aligned. Obviously, Emily being the North Star. And last year we did 70 transactions and almost 100 million in sales. And I mean, the best part is in 2017, which was my former, you know, great year, banner year, I didn't have a lot of personal time. You know, I didn't have time for my family. I have 2 kids. You know, I didn't have time to, you know, eat dinner all the time with them or spend time with them. And when I was going into 2018, I was talking with another high producer here, and we're talking about racing the GCI goals. And I went home that night and I had a really odd conversation with my son. We were just in the garage and we were talking. At the time, I think he was 5, and he was asking me questions about my car. And it just kind of hit me all of a sudden. I'm like, why am I working? Why am I just chasing this carrot? You know, that just, because that's all you want to do is just keep making more money, make more money. How do I do this? And I just kind of had an epiphany moment where I was like, this is too much. You know, like I need to chill out a little bit. Like how much money do you need to make to, you know? And it was a great moment to have. It was an aha moment for me. And as I drove my business forward, I didn't do quite as well that year because I took Fridays off every week. I became a youth sports coach for my son in all 3 sports he played. You know, I try to take time off for my family, and it's hard. It's really hard. The world never stops spinning in real estate. I know that. But you have to have time. And in order to create time, you have to have somebody there supporting you and doing all the back end stuff you know how to do. It's not that you don't know how to do it. It's just, it takes time away from other things that are also important. And Emily is a vital role in that process. You know, last year we had our best year ever by freaking 30%. And I had more time. I took time off. I took vacations. I'd still coach youth sports. You know, even I just started back up. Thank God, COVID shut us down for a year, but we just started coaching basketball last week. So I'm so thankful to have that support with Emily that gives me the ability to be at home with my family and have that flexibility.
Yeah, and Emily, you know, if you weren't doing an amazing job, he wouldn't be able to let go, you know. But because you come in and you own it like you do, he feels comfortable being able to capture back some time with his family, which I've got a wife and 3 kids, and yeah, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the work, but then you will have those moments where you're like, okay, what really matters is that my son's 13 now, and that's happened really fast, you know, and there's only so many years left. So I definitely hear what you're saying there, and I'm so happy that you guys had that. Now, so to move on, not to change the energy too much, but you guys have been together for a couple of years. I'm assuming, I know that everything has been really awesome. I'm guessing everything hasn't been perfect. Have there been any growing pains or challenges that you all have faced, and how did you approach those and come out winning the other side?
Well, I mean, on my end, in the beginning, it was hard learning the contracts, and I was so nervous because Roy's clients, they're dealing with the biggest purchase of their life, right? Buying a house. There's huge numbers, and I'm like, oh my God, am I getting this right? Roy, can you double check this? I'd screenshot him pictures. Can you double check this and this? And, you know, I'm sure while he's out showing houses and busy, he's having to look at his phone. Yes, that looks good. Yes, call me back. Yes, that looks good. You know, so I'm sure that had some challenges in the beginning. Just trying to ease my worry that I was doing things correctly. It must have been a little trying for him in the beginning.
How am I supposed to answer this question? Honestly, I when I was looking to prepare for this, I looked at that question. I'm like, is there anything that really has aggravated or not aggravated that hasn't been smooth? Or And the answer is no, there hasn't been. I mean, I've been really fortunate. Like I've had that before, and where there's things where I'm like, I wish this was a little bit better, or, but you learn, you just kind of learn as a broker. If you're hiring your second, third, hopefully it's not any more than that. I mean, I'm starting to look like I'm turning over assistants here, and that's not my goal. I want one, and I want it for life, but when you have the patience to understand that somebody's learning something brand new, a new skill, you should know that going into it, and I like Emily was talking about, if there was anything, I mean, I guess that would be the only thing, is just, but that's a skill you have to learn. You have to learn how computation of time works and what's important in a contract, and it's ever evolving. Like, they just changed our forms last week in our MLS. I got to learn too, so it wasn't anything that was ever not perfect. It was just a learning process, and I think that the only thing was really on me more than anything else. And it was to go back to what I said earlier, which is, I mean, I could keep Emily busy all day if I wanted to. I could have her up at 5 and down at 10, and she knows it. I know she knows it. And, but I felt like I was starting to get to the point where I was like, I got to pull the reins back a bit, because you also don't want to burn the person that's running your business out, and she's got kids too, and she needs a life. And so I think that if anything, I had to disrupt my own processes and be like, hey, stop calling Emily when it's 7:30 at night. Although I still do sometimes, true story, but I try not to.
Well, I love this. So just a quick observation on mindset and just being a good dude and the value in that, right? So like, so mindset, first of all, it's possible that when an agent brings someone in, they want them to learn it right away. They wish they learned it right away, and they could get all frustrated and upset that their assistant doesn't get it just like that. I've seen it. You didn't approach it kind of like from a victim mindset. You went into it as, okay, this is a part of the process. I believe in her. I'm willing to invest in her. I'm willing to answer a bunch of questions and stuff, probably because, you want to help her, but also, it's just a smart investment of your time. The faster I get her the information she needs, the faster she's going to be able to operate at a high level, and also just, I mean, it's kind of been oozing out today, Roy's a good dude, he's not trying to take advantage of her, and that's so important to being able to keep a talented person, right? So like another person could have hired Emily and just run her into the ground, tried to keep her up at 7 a.m. and working until 10 p.m. And Emily probably would have done that for a long time, but then eventually any person's gonna burn out, so again, I think there's so much good here between the two of you, and I just hope that so many people watching this can see what it takes to win in a relationship like this, and you two have a lot of it figured out. I always like wrapping up these interviews. I want to give each one of you a chance to give a piece of advice to other rainmakers, and also to job seekers. I think it's valuable to get perspective from both of you. And the job seeker or a new hire, something like that, someone that's trying to get the job or get into a job, and to other rainmakers. I think we've given a lot of advice, but do y'all have anything you want to add there?
You want to go first, Em?
Sure. Advice would be communication, of course. As an assistant role, or really any role, you want to communicate really well. Roy and I work together well as a team, and other agents, coworkers and clients, even, they always say that Roy and I seem to always be on the same page, and yes, that is the goal. That is the goal. We are a team, and like anything, communication is very important. We have to always be on the same page.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to go to my staple. I swear to God, I say this at least once a month to a friend of mine who doesn't have an assistant, or someone helping them, or even if it's somebody who has an assistant who's hiring for the next position, which we constantly talk about, Emily and I do. we're right on that fringe where we're like, do we hire another person? And, you know, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But for the ones who are watching, who are like, hey, I remember very distinctly before I had my very first assistant. And I always thought to myself, like, I don't really want the responsibility. How am I going to keep them busy all the time? You know, it's going to take more time. It's money. It's all and you get caught up in that in your head. And I literally did for 2 years. And another great broker who told me, you know, like, just shut up and hire your help. You know, I finally did. You know, I finally got over that hump after thinking about it for so many years and hearing about this from other brokers. And the second that it happened, it was like, it's almost like if you've had a child, it's almost like looking back at your former life before you had a child. It's like, it completely changes you, and it makes you so much more efficient and better for your customers and better for your home life or your personal life, you know. And it just, you should do it immediately. Absolutely. I mean, my sister-in-law is a broker, and, you know, she sells 15 million a year. You know, that's still good. That's great production. And I'm telling her, like, and she's hustling, right? And I'm like, Debbie, it's time for you to get an assistant, because I think you can double your production up to 30 million or 40 million just because of that help it's so great, you know. And so don't wait. And frankly, you know, use Ryan's company. If I can say anything, use Ryan's company. I'm telling you from mistakes I've made. I'm sorry, it's really bright in here. That, you know, you gotta use a professional service. You know, I've hired on my own before. I was lucky the first time, literally lucky. And then, and I can tell you horror stories from other brokers. Brokers are really good at finding the best in people. We know how to look at people and be like, you're awesome. I want you on my team. And then as one of my good friends and managers, who was a broker before she became a manager, she then found out very quickly that person wasn't a great fit. And then she went to her Facebook profile and saw pictures of this assistant, you know, and her craziness in her personal life. She's like, maybe this wasn't a great idea. Like, use a professional company. It will save you time. You will get the right fit, and you're going to be set. You know, so just do it. That's all I'm saying. Just do it. Give it a shot. If you're right there, you know, definitely go in and use the services and get the right person on your team, because you will absolutely thank Ryan and I later.
Well, thank you for the endorsement. Not to turn this into an infomercial, but I appreciate it. But anyway, Roy Towse, Emily Masutomi, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us. And everyone that's watching here, you know, Roy said that he gets a lot of relocation business people, a lot happening up there in the Seattle area. They're with Compass in Seattle. They're doing amazing things. They love referrals too. So think about them if you have anyone that's looking to do something in Seattle. And thank you again so much, guys. Have a great one.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.